Hi guys, this is a Phantom 3 standard repair. So this is, I haven't done repairs in for ages and I refuse to do repairs because of lack of DJI stock. But I do have the parts for this already in stock that I collected when I was doing repairs. So I was happy to accept this one to do it basically. So this has got a motor issue. So I wanted to go through what I do on testing and checking everything to make sure it's not to make sure everything else is okay, and it's just literally is the motor. Always do those checks anyway, so I wanted to sort of do this live on camera, and we'll do a live on repairs. I've got to get my stuff out of stock, not out of stock, out of storage. So I'm going to go get that a little bit later after I've done this anyway. Came on Friday, but obviously missed the delivery. Picked it up on Saturday, so and I didn't get a chance to get it all sorted out because I had lots of issues over the weekend with family and stuff. But yeah, so we've got it here on the bench now, so I'm going to go through. So let me just zoom in a bit so we can have a look at what we got. So we've got the Phantom 3 standard here. We've got the battery fully charged, which is ideal, and he also sent me the charger, so fantastic. And we've also got a full battery on the controller itself here. Perfect. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to take the gimbal cover off, and what I want to do is check to make sure all this powers up and connects and stuff, to make sure it is literally just the motor that's at fault. So before we do anything, make sure the props are off, which they are in this case, and controller on first. And I'm just going to get my phone and we can attach it to connect to this. So we power it up. 1, 2, just go on in a minute. Click on settings on my phone, browse the Wi-Fi, and pick up the Phantom 3 Wi-Fi, and it should be the default code 1234 1234. I think that is. Yep. And then we should be connected to that in a sec. There we go, connected to the Phantom 3 Wi-Fi point. And now we can load up, I think it's the DJI Go app, it's actually still on. And everything else is on the DJI Go 4 now. So fire that up. There we go. So first of all, wait till it goes through its normal thing. Strong interference detected. Move this back a little bit so you can guys see this. So what I check for is the overall status, make sure everything's all normal, firmware is installed. Then I check on here general things like is there any errors on the screen here, because sometimes when you have a motor go, it can pop the ESC, and normally you get an error message along here that basically says ESC error, please contact DJI. And if that's the case, that means it's the main board that's actually gone on the standard, so it means basically replacing the whole of that. In this case, it shows everything's okay. So what I'm going to do, put this just down a minute, I'm going to fire up the motors. I know that probably won't all fire up. And we can see it's this motor here that's actually got the fault. The other three are firing up, spin up perfectly. And it's just this motor here causing problems. It's not caused any ESC warning errors on the software itself. Everything's hunky-dory. Let's check the normal stuff like camera pan up and down, which is all perfect. And the other thing we also check is when we move the Phantom about like this, the camera should go opposite in the opposite direction and stuff, which it does. And it's then self-centering. So yeah, so everything else checks out fine. We're happy with that. And now we can get on with doing the repair. So let's power everything off. Down that first. Controller. Yeah, so I'm happy with that now. So with the next stage we're going to do is we're going to go and get all my parts from the storage. So I can get it all out on the bench, get the tools and stuff out. Now the next part will be to remove the top case, so we can expose the motor itself. We don't need to take the whole board or anything else out, because all we're going to do is desolder it from the main board here, which we can do that without taking the board out. And then we can swap the motors over, solder back in there. Hopefully, thumbs up, job done. I've got tons of Phantom Hiya. Got tons. Is that Big Mac? that's quite a good call, you know. So we've got plenty of spares on the Phantom Standard because I've done loads and loads of repairs on the Standard. So I've got tons and tons of parts and stuff, and I got a feeling I've got probably about 4 sets of these motors, and I've got both types of motors as well. Hi Ian. So yeah, so I've got the parts are all there. So just a matter of literally getting this done now, and I believe I've got some sticky labels. So we can put these sticky labels back on his Phantom for him because unfortunately there's no sticky labels on this. So we get it looking as good as new. So I might even give him some new mounts here and stuff, and we'll put a cable tie on the ends of these ones there, like I normally do it anyway. But yeah, so apart from that, it's in pretty good nick. It's just that motor that needs sorting out. So there you go. So that's going to be quite a simple one to do. So I'm not going to film that live. I'm going to actually do a video on that one. So we'll break it down in parts and show the process of removing the motor off and back on again. Quick tip to know, right? I'm going to point it back at the Phantom. Now, in some cases, you get a motor that will spin up and it spins slower than the other 3 motors. Now, you can't tell whether it's the ESC at fault or whether it's the motor at fault. Because if all the other motors are spinning fine, but this one is spinning but not as fast as the other ones, then what you would do, because you may think it might be an ESC issue rather than motor, to isolate this, to sort of say, right, I'm going to want to test to see if the motors. I would say if it's this motor here, which is the silver one, I would desolder that one off the board, swap it with this one, take this motor off the board, swap it back over this side. So we're literally swapping the motors around. If it behaves in the same way as before, once we swap the motors around, we know it's an ESC issue, and that's basically a new board. If for some reason the motor on this side spins up nice and fast on here, then you'll know the motor's it's not a motor issue. But if you find the motor's still going slow this side this time, not going as fast, and this is spinning really fast, then we know it's a motor issue. So that's how I test it. So rather than put new motors on, we'll test it. What we test is, because this is obviously dead, and normally if it's an ESC that's definitely blown, you'll definitely get an error up on your software to say ESC gone. So and if you got it spinning slower, but the rest is spinning fast, and obviously then you swap it around and check it. So that's how the process elimination I do on these type of things. But in this case, because there's no ESC warnings, we know it's definitely a motor fault. So we can happily take that one off and put a new motor on in place. And it started losing video feed. Yeah, there's lots of on the Phantom Standard, you're losing video feed. Wait for the question to come up. Yes. So if you're losing video feeds on the Phantom Standard, the actual Wi-Fi for this is actually all built into this bottom part here. Okay, so you have you've got an aerial here which goes up onto here, then it goes down to one of the side of the legs. So it's all built onto the main part, on this main part. Back in the Phantom 2 Vision days, the Wi-Fi module for the camera was actually a module inside the Phantom itself, but on the Phantom 2 Standard they're not. They're actually, it's part of this board. So if you're losing the video signal, and it's not a software issue, it's not a firmware issue, it's not cable, and it's not the gimbal ribbon cable itself, then it's got to be this main board here that's at fault. So you'll have to look at swapping that. But unfortunately, you can't buy these parts separately because the gimbal is sold as one. If you've got a spare Phantom 3 Standard, not many people do, but if you did, you could swap them over to check it out to see if it is something to do with the Phantom itself, or whether it's to do with this board bit itself here. Because that's how I used to test out cameras not operating correctly on the Phantom 3 Standard. Phantom 3 Pro, Advanced and Pro, you swap the gimbals over one you know that actually works. So if you haven't got one to swap out, it's a bit more difficult to diagnose. So it's more or less it's got to be to do with this main board here. So check out firmware first, reapply firmware which it doesn't hurt it, or downgrade it and reapply the new firmware. Check your cables to make sure these are all seated in correctly. And sometimes you've got a Wi-Fi connection here that goes into the main board here. You've got a couple of screws this side and that lips up. You've got one this side that lips up, and you can see the actual connection inside there. Check to make sure that's actually still pushed on, because they're very, very tiny connectors, and if you tug the cable too much you can actually pop it up off its board. That may be the right reason. So check cabling, make sure it's seated in properly, the aerial seated in as well. The aerial this side is also seated in correctly. If it's still behaving badly, then obviously it's got to do with that main board. So I would look at new gimbal on that side. Or if that's under warranty, straight back to DJI, get them to deal with it. That's what I would do. Anyway, right, I need to get on with this build. I need to go and get the parts for it, and I can get it all stripped down and get it all sorted out and get this back to the owner as quick as possible. So thanks for watching, guys. Like this video, thumbs up. Don't like this video, thumbs down. Remember to hit that subscribe button, guys. And remember to watch my other videos, and do check out Jack's Gear channel, my new channel, and I'll see you soon on the next one. Cheers.